بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. Okay, my talk to you today is about a very important concept in our life, which is about how to build balance in your life. And I think this is one of the common complaints that I hear a lot from a lot of people in my community and whenever I travel. Life became so difficult to build a balance, in it. A lot of young people asking me how they can build balance in their life. And a lot of people who, when they start practicing their religion and they want to be good Muslims, they don't know how to build balance in their life as well. Those who are newlywed, those who just had a baby, those who just start a job. How can you build a balance? How can you balance between the materialistic world that we're living in and surrounding us with our spirituality and keep ourselves spiritual? How can we build balance between the duty that we have towards our religion and the duty we have towards our society, our community? How can we build balance between work, home, especially when you have, professional working mom and a professional working dad. And by the way, something I'm very proud of in your country here in Sweden, one of the leading country when it comes to women in the workforce and a good representation of women in society. In political area, in the workforce. How can you build a balance between that and your duty as a mother or your children? How can I build a balance when it comes to money between spending and saving and giving sadaqah and planning for the future? How can I build a balance between my social life and my relationship with my family as well? Between my soul and my body and my mental health? How can I build a balance when it comes to my time? How to manage it in a balanced way? How can I balance between my happiness as a person, especially when I am in a struggling situation? Maybe, between my family, my wife, or my kids, my parents, my in-laws, and my home. Sometimes it became very difficult to build a balance. Even just building a balance between your identity as a Muslim and your identity as a Swedish person or a person who lives in the West. How can you build a balance between, a religion that keep you connected to basically a sources in Quran and Sunnah and a religion that is 1,400 years ago, while you are living in the 21st century? How can you build this balance between modernity and authenticity? How can you build this balance between maybe your roots, if you come from some foreign countries, other than being here, and now many of you second generation, born, raised here, that's the only place that they live. How can you build a balance between all of this? Even when it comes to your relationship with Allah, how can you build that balance between, loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and at the same time you fear Him, you respect Him? This is a very big challenge for each and every one of us. Remember a story I read a long time ago. A person wanted to teach his son wisdom, so he sent him to a wise man who lived up on the hill. So this young man took that road all the way to the top of the hill, and he saw that wise old man sitting outside in his front yard. Then he said, "You're late. I thought your father said you're gonna come earlier." He said, "I'm sorry." He said, "What are you here for?" He said, I'm here for you to teach me how can I balance my life. Then he said, "Okay, before that, I'll give you this simple exercise." He took a teaspoon, and he put in it 3 or 4 drops of oil, olive oil. And he said, "Hold it with your mouth, and I want you to go inside my house in the backyard and you come here." So the young man put the spoon in his mouth, and he thought the whole exercise about how to balance his walk so the oil will not spill from the spoon. By the time he made the round and he came back, he asked him, have you seen the beautiful paint on the wall in the hallway when you enter the house? He said, no. He said, did you notice this big library in your right-hand side? He said, no. He said, have you seen this beautiful tulips and roses? No. Then he said, so what? He said, all what I was doing is just trying to basically keep the oil in the spoon. He said, no, I want you to go now and to keep the spoon in your mouth, and I want you to see all these unique things that I have, my collections in the house. He said, okay. So he took a second round, and by the time he came, he said, yeah, I saw all the things that you mentioned and one more. Then he said, what about the oil? And found that he dropped the oil on the way. So, you know, happiness in life is to be able to enjoy your life and these things that Allah has blessed you with while you're keeping the oil in the spoon. It's very hard to keep that balance in your life. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today, some general points, because as you see, balance needs to be built in every aspect in our life. So these are very general points like what I shared yesterday with you about success. I hope to share also a general points that you can use them as like tools in your life. We as Muslims know the value of being balanced very well. One of the most famous verse that many people know and memorize, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We have made you an ummah which is wasat. Wasat, it means in English, if I want to translate that word, is to basically in the middle, which in other words, balance. And it's ironic because this verse, it's number 143, which it comes exactly in the middle of that surah. Okay, so it exactly comes in the middle of that surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Seek, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, seek through that which Allah or God has given you, the home of the hereafter, and yet do not forget your share of this world. So Allah wants to build that balance. As we keep our eyes on the hereafter and next life to come after death, we also must keep our eyes on this life that we have today. It is so wrong sometimes when I see that sometimes when I go to the mosque or I hear people giving khutbah, I heard there is an imam conference here, so I don't want to say that I get in trouble with all these imams. But I would assume your imams are different than ours. But sometimes I say, alhamdulillah, that I'm imam giving khutbah. You know why? Because I don't want to listen to the khutbah. I'm sorry to say that, but it's so weird. Sometimes I just listen to the khutbah and I say, hey, I can't even connect to it at all. Some people, when they give, when they preach, when they speak, either they talk about the past or they talk about the future and what will happen in the end of the days. And they forget about today, what's happening today. Some people, when they talk about heavens and what's above the heavens, or what will happen to you in your grave, or what's underneath of you, and they forgot what's on the face of the earth today happening. So some people don't know how to build that balance in their life, or even in their teaching. How can you build the balance between this life and the next, so you don't lose sight on any one of them? The Prophet ﷺ said once to Abu Darda, when he saw Darda, which is Abu Darda's wife, he saw her, and she was not really taking good care of herself. You know, she's not dressed very well, and she's newlywed. Then he said, why don't you take care of yourself? Why don't you dress well? You know, you look good and fresh. You basically just newlywed. Then she said, oh, my husband is not interested in that at all. He is only when he comes back home, all what he does, he prays. And he fasts every day and he prays at night, and that's my husband. He just focuses on religion and worshiping Allah. She complained. Then the Prophet ﷺ told Abu Darda that what he is doing is not correct, because it's not balanced. He said, إِنَّ لِرَبِّكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. Allah has right upon you. Your God has right upon you. And وَإِنَّ لِنَفْسِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. And your body has right upon you. So if you fast every day, you don't sleep in the night, that's basically harming yourself. He said, and your body has right upon you. وَإِنَّ لِأَهْلِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. And your family have rights as well. فَأَعْطِ كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقًّا. So you should fulfill the rights of every and each one. You cannot neglect the rights of your family just because you want to fulfill the right of God. You cannot fulfill the right of God in the expense of forgetting about your own soul and your own body and yourself and so forth. And the hadith reported by Al-Bukhari. In another incident during the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hamdallah al-Asdi, he saw Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And he said, Abu Bakr told him, by the way, Hamdallah is one of the writers for the Prophet ﷺ. You know, the Prophet used to appoint people to write his statements, write the Quran, document what the Prophet ﷺ saying. So Hamdallah was a very special person. But when Abu Bakr asked him, he said, how do you find yourself? How are you doing? Then he said, terrible. Nafaqa Hamdallah. I feel like I'm a hypocrite. Then Abu Bakr said, subhanallah, how come you say that about yourself? What happened? He said, Ya Abu Bakr, when I am with the Prophet Muhammad, listening to him sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and looking at him, and seeing the admonition and reminder of the Prophet reciting the Quran, and reciting the verses of God, and these beautiful gatherings, my faith, my iman, my belief goes so up high. I'm so strong in my faith. قال فإذا رجعنا إلى الدور وعافسنا النساء وشاركنا الأموال والأولاد. And when we go back to home, to work, and we with our family, with our kids, and we forget about many of these things that we hear and we talk about when we are with the Prophet. So I feel that I'm a hypocrite. At one point I'm so good, and at the other point I'm not as good as what I was. So Abu Bakr said, وَإِنَّا لَنَجِدُ مَا تَجِدُ. See, Abu Bakr is very wise. He said, yes, I feel the same. But Abu Bakr didn't say that's hypocrisy. He said, and also he's even much wiser. He's very wise. He said, let's go ask the Prophet about this. So when they asked the Prophet about that, the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, Wallahi, if you stay in the same state that you are at when you are with me, the angels will shake your hands on the road or on the streets. You became angels, not any more humans. You became perfect. But that's not how life is. Then he said a very beautiful statement, the Prophet, after that. He said, وَلَكِنْ يَا حَمْضَلَةَ سَاعَةً وَسَاعَةً. Ya Hamdallah, it is 1 hour this way and 1 hour, not hour, say sometimes like this way and sometimes that way. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. That's a balance in life. Because it's not balanced that you became all the time, for example, Mr. or Mrs. Perfect, you know, or all the time you are always bad, or you know, it just, this is how you balance your iman and your life. So if we would like to balance our life, especially when it comes to dealing with ourselves, dealing with others, and again, I want you to keep this subject as general as you can. One of the things that I will say that is so important for you to always not to focus, or let's put it in a positive manner. Focus on the positive, not on the negative. A lot of people lose balance because they only look at the negative. They don't look at the positive in any aspect of their life. And that's when you lose balance. For instance, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, when it comes to relationships, he said, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة في صحيح Muslim. He said, do not hate your spouse. And specifically, yes, the hadith applied to women, but applied to men and women in general. He said, don't ever hate your wife because of bad quality that you see in her. Because, he said, إن سخط منها خلق رضي منها آخر. If you don't like one thing about her, you're always going to find something else that you like about her. If you don't like something else, something about your husband, there will be something else maybe you like about your husband. So that's basically a general rule, that the person should not always focus on the negative, not focus on the what the wrong things happen. No, you should be balanced, and you should teach yourself to focus more on the positive, not on the negative. When the Prophet ﷺ visited a sick person, the person was so irritated by the sickness that he experienced. And he was saying, Ya Rasulullah, humma tafur. He said, this is like I'm burning. Then Nabi ﷺ said, La ba's tahur. He said, that will be a purification for you. It will purify you from your sins. So sometimes people don't see the positive that they have. And the moment you start looking at the positive things in your life, you will really appreciate a lot what you have. Because one of the things that in order for you to build a balance, you have to appreciate what you have. You have to appreciate what you have. You cannot ask for more if you don't appreciate what you have. If you don't appreciate what you have, no matter what you gain, no matter what you get, you will never be appreciative of it. You will always complain because you're not used to look at the positive. Recently, I met one of my students who's a doctor. He worked in the ER. So he told me, he'd been telling me for a very long time that he want to quit medicine. I said, why? He said, it's a very hard job, and you know, I'm not sure if I'm wasting my time. I don't really want to focus on writing book and do this and to do that. And he said, I'm not sure if I do is very good. He said, you know what, I'll tell you something. I really sometimes envy you guys, doctors. Not because you make a lot of money, that's not the point. The point is that you doctors have opportunity no one else has. He said, what do you mean? I said, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that Allah said, when you visit a sick person, Allah, the God Almighty, He will be there while you are visiting that sick person. قَالَ لَوَجَدْتَنِي عِنْدَهُ. To encourage us to visit the sick. Why? Because visiting the sick person, it will help him psychologically to feel better. Help him to improve. That's right. That's the whole point. So I said, that's for me just to making him feel better by being there in his company. What do you think if you, physician, who literally, physically can make him better? What do you think if you, who always there with them, and you visit and you make your round in the hospital to visit 20, 30 patients a day, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there all the time with you? Then he said, you know what, I never thought about it this way. He called me later on, he said, 2 or 3 weeks later, he said, I'm enjoying my work much more than now. Because I never thought about that positive, basically, aspect of it. Even though I know it's a noble thing to be a doctor. But I didn't, I was focused on the negativity of it. You know, all the rules and regulations and the, you know, the time that I waste there sometimes, you know, because he worked in a place was not very really, not one of the best hospitals in the world or best countries where they have a very good system. So he was very frustrated, but this helped him to look at the positive thing that he has. So he was able to build a little bit of balance in his life. Another point, which is very close to this, is in order for you to balance, you have to learn how to be an optimistic person. They said, if an optimistic and a pessimistic person, one optimistic and one pessimistic, walk into the donut shop, the optimistic person will look at the donut, the dough, but this pessimist will look at the hole. You know, said, there's a hole, where's the donuts missing, you know? While the optimistic will look at the dough. So there is the difference. There are pessimistic people, very negative. They can't think positively. And optimism is one important, basically, principle in life. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعجبه الفعل. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم loved optimism. Optimism in our religion is based on a good from your Lord. حسن الظن بالله. It's a fundamental issue in our belief that you always think of your God as a source of good thing. You always think that there is always good coming from Him. As a matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah said, I will meet your expectation. If you expect good from me, from him, he will give you good. If you expect bad from me, that's what you're going to get. Actually, there is a study was made from where I came from in Texas, and on the top high school students, the top high school students in the whole entire state of Texas. Okay? And they found that one common thing between all these students, regardless of their faith background, all of them, they always think very positively about their God. They always expect always good from basically that ultimate power that they believe in, which is the God that they believe in. It is so important not to look to future as a very dark thing. Always expect the best is coming. And that's part of our belief. The Prophet ﷺ always loved optimism. And he taught the companion about this. Even in the most difficult moment in their life, he always telling them that always good will come out of this. Will always be the best coming to you. So you keep that always in your mind. Make this is your attitude. Because if you lose this, I can guarantee you, you will not be able to balance your life. And somebody told me once, Shaykh, I feel when you guys talk a lot about optimism, you're not being realistic. Somebody told me, you don't know how many problems that I have in my life. You don't know how many challenges I have to deal with every day in my life. And I tell all of you, I know that there are so many problems out there. I know that some of you struggling with bad habits. Maybe struggling with wrong choices that you have made in your life. I know maybe you are in debt. I know maybe you're struggling in your study. Maybe you're struggling in your marriage. Maybe you're struggling with your parents. You're struggling with, your society and whatever issue that you have. But as I'm 100% sure that all of us here have so many problems and there are so many of them out there, I'm 100% positive that there are so many solutions out there as well. As the Prophet ﷺ said once, مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِن دَاءٍ إِلَّا جَعَلَ لَهُ دَوَاءً. Every disease, there is a cure for it. That's how it is. I'm not asking you not to be a realistic person, but I'm asking you always to expect good, to be positive, to always being an optimistic person. It means that you see opportunities in your difficulties. Because if you're not an optimistic person, what will happen? You will always see difficulties in your opportunities, which is not the right way of living. And with this attitude, I guarantee you, you will not be able to balance your life. Learn how to smile more often. Smile make you an optimistic person. Number 3, it is so important if you want to build balance in your life, to stay away from this way of thinking. I call it in Arabic words, even a lot of Arabic speaking people don't know what that exactly word means. It's called hadiyah. Hadiyah means 2 things. One is basically to be very narrow in your vision, very narrow in your choices. If you live your life that you only give yourself one option, you will never be able to actually balance your life. People who know who want to balance their life very well, you have to learn to always give yourself multiple choices. Even in Sharia and Islam and religion, there is always, multiple choices. In fiqh, there is always multiple opinions. Because basically, putting people in a very narrow angle and you say to the people, this is the only thing, this or you are doomed. That became no life like that. You can't live like that. You will never be able to balance your life this way. When you strip people from the ability to make multiple choices or many choices or options in their life, that's, in my opinion, a failure. That's why a successful scholar, a good preacher, a good leader is the one who will give his people multiple options. Variety of things to choose from. Another aspect related to this, which is when you always have this mentality, 100 or a 0. It's either to be perfect or Mrs. or Mr. Perfect or sinner. It is Zamzam or wine. You don't know tap water. You know, you don't need, it doesn't need to be that extreme. It's either to go to the farthest point left or the farthest point right. You need to know that I don't need to do that. Either I love you 100% or I hate you 100%. That's a wrong way of thinking. Those people cannot build balance in their life. When they read a book, either he loves the book so he will not see any mistakes in it, or he hates the person so he will not see any good in it. He likes a society so he will 100% go. Or he hate or don't like something in society so he will hate it 100%. Come on, you can balance that a little bit. That's not how it goes. Al-Hasan al-Basri once said, أحبب حبيبك هونا ما. When you love someone, don't go too extreme. And when you hate someone, don't go too extreme. It is ridiculous sometimes when people go to extreme like that. That's why those who have this kind of mentality, they cannot really succeed or can move on in their life, because they always want something to be 100% perfect. There is nothing like this in life. Unfortunately, it's not exist. In marriage, same thing. People look to me, either perfect man, perfect woman. I have bad news for you guys. All those who are married like me know this a long time ago. But those who are not married, maybe, not yet. There is no such thing called perfect husband. There's no such thing. You agree, huh? Okay. No such thing called perfect wife. There is nothing like that. We're all a combination of good and bad. We all have our strength and weakness. We all have our strong moments and weak moments. That's life. So that just thinking about like being idealistic in the world, to be perfect. You know, I remember reading a book a long time ago of a guy was talking about how, you know, and this happened a lot to religious people. Those who became very religious, they always expect things to be perfect like religion. There is a difference between religion and people who practice the religion. The religion in itself perfect, but you know what? People are not perfect. Religion, the source of the religion are 100% correct, but the opinion of the scholars of the religion are not 100% correct. So you can't just go to extreme like that. And we saw that in many form and shape came in our history and in our life today. Another point, which is number 4, be realistic. It's so important if you want to build a balance to be realistic, to know the reality, to know your life, to know your society, to know yourself before anything else. So you know your strength and you know your weakness. You know your abilities. You know your options. You know your opportunities. Because you can't build a balance and you don't even know yourself yet. Or you don't know your community, or you don't know your family, or you don't know your society, and so forth. It is so important to do that. Musa alayhi salam, when he told Prophet Muhammad when it comes to the prayer, he told him, I had experience with the children of Israel. 5 prayers a day, 5 times to pray 5 times a day, that's a lot for people. He knows people. That's why he was telling the Prophet, by the way, 5 times a day, that's a lot for people. And the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I felt shy to ask reduction from the Prophet. Very ironic, I had a rabbi, a friend of our family. She was visiting me once in the masjid and she told me, Shaykh Waleed, I'm surprised how you're able to bring people to your mosque 5 times a day. Said, I can't bring them even twice to the synagogue. It's very difficult. How you guys do it 5 times a day? To pray 5 times a day? I told her, your prophet told us that. You know, it's kind of hard to pray 5 times a day. But that shows you that he knows the people. So when you know yourself, you know your community, when you want to build a balance in your life, when you want a balanced talk, a balanced plan, a plan that is balanced, that fits your society, fits your community, fits your organization, you have to know the reality. Also, make sure that you don't have a wrong perception about yourself, about others, because that will not allow you to have a balanced view of life or of the people that you want to deal with. Another thing very important is make sure that you stay away from procrastination. When you keep saying, I will do this, inshallah, maybe next week, I'll do next year. You know what, I'll start my hijab when I get married. You know, after Hajj, I will start doing this. After this, I will start praying after I go to Hajj. I'll start doing this after I do that. See, when I graduate, when I reach 40 years old, you know, I'm start gonna lose weight when I, you know, after when Ramadan comes. You know, that's, as Ramadan help you to lose weight. It's the opposite, by the way, just to let you know. Even if you basically diet, because anyway, it's another talk. But so what I'm saying is, there's basically people who keep delaying things because I'll do it when this happen, I'll do it when this happen. Usually they cannot balance their life. You know, I'll start business when I'm this, when I'm that. I'm going to start, you know, learning Quran after I learn Arabic. I'm going to start this after I learn Quran, after I travel over to learn in the Middle East. You know, those people who keep delaying and delaying and delaying, usually they cannot build balance in their life. Remember, the longer you wait for the future, the shorter it will be. So the longer you wait for the future, the shorter your future will be. That's right. Because basically your future became less and less as days and months goes by. One of the things also very important to build balance is to know that your life is made of the combination of several things. You cannot only focus on one and basically forget about the others. So you are made of a soul and a body. I have to nourish my soul as well as to nourish my body. You know, we live as individuals and also as community. I cannot only focus on my personal life and forget about my duty toward my social life. One of the things I always tell married couples, I tell always wives, you know, and this happened a lot, and at least in my community I see a lot of sisters, when they get married, they became like isolated from the world. And I always tell them, not because they acquired a husband, you forget about your friends. Okay? They don't replace one another. You know, your wife don't replace your friends. Your husband don't replace your friend. Your friends nurture and fulfill certain needs in you your husband will never be able to fulfill. And the husband will fulfill certain needs your friends will never be able to fulfill. And the same thing to men. Same thing when it comes to basically to soul and body. So what kind of success you have achieved if you build the muscles and mashallah you're very healthy body, but you're empty, your soul is lost. You don't know who's your Lord. You don't know why you are here and where you're going. That would be such a loss. It is so important to know that also you have a mind and emotions. You cannot fulfill your basically intellect and you forget about your feelings. We are a combination of these two. You can't focus. We cannot always talk to people logically and speak about things from a logical perspective, and we don't care about feelings and develop feelings. And the same thing like I said yesterday, it's not correct only to care and to take in consideration feelings and to forget about logic. You have to know loving, caring, trusting, these positive emotions are needed in our life and important to be kept. You have to make sure that you're healthy. You have to make sure that also financially you are well established. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talked to Muhammad in Surah Al-Duha, He said about Muhammad, you were orphaned and we have given you who will take care of you. You were poor and we made you rich, independent, not in need of anybody financially. I tell people, some people tell me, Shaykh, my faith and my iman, my relationship with Allah is very weak. And I asked him, do you have a job? He said, what? I said, do you have a job? He said, Shaykh, what this has to do with anything? I said, it has to do with everything. Because if you don't have a balance in your life, in my opinion, you cannot succeed. You cannot succeed in one area and you basically broken in other areas. You have a stable life, stable job. Your relationship with your wife is good, with your husband is good, with your family. That will affect your relationship with God as well. And vice versa. So basically you have to keep that in mind. It's so important always to keep in mind that I am made of several things and I have to fulfill all these needs. One of the biggest mistakes we do with our children, that we tell our children, oh, now all your duty in life is to study and to be a perfect student. All what you need to do, make sure that you study. As if this kid, God created him just to study. Come on, your kids need a break. He need to have, to go out to play, to have fun. You have to fulfill all these areas. It's not fair, it's not right, it's not healthy. Knowing this fact is one of the key points to build balance in your life. That's why every here and there, I always try to do this exercise with my own self. So what I do, I basically do like a pizza shape, Then I write in each one of these triangle something. Health, family relationship, social relationship, finance, some certain aspect of my life. And I basically start taking the pencil and I start basically coloring this triangle. How much I think about my health? 50%. Okay, how much I think about my finances? Like 70%. My relationship with my Allah, my spirituality, well, this is like 30%. And I look at this shape. If I see it so messed up like that, I say to myself, there is something need to be corrected here. Because I know that I'm not just, if I succeed in one area or nurturing one area of my body or my mind or my emotion, and I'm not taking care of the others, I'm in trouble and I need to fix that. That's why in our mosque, in my masjid that I'm the leader of it, if you go to Clear Lake Islamic Center, we have a very interesting slogan. It's in the masjid we say, pray, learn and play. So in the mosque, every time we do an activity, we make sure that there is fun to play, and there is opportunity to learn, and also to pray. Because I feel that's the role of the center, the institute. We make sure that we don't just focus on one area and we forget about others. It's not correct for an imam or a leader in the community. He only talk about your spirituality and about halal and haram and fiqh, and he doesn't care about your success as a married couple. He doesn't care about your success in your financial life. He doesn't care about the challenges that you face. We have to basically to nourish, as I said, and to fulfill all these different areas. Number 7, knowledge is one of the things that help you a lot to build balance in your life. Because ignorance will not help you much to make the right call, to know all the areas, all these options that you have in life. The more you increase your knowledge in religion and in life, the more you will be able to make a better, wiser decisions in your life and to build that balance that you're seeking. Another point, which is number 8, patience. Patient people have the ability to balance their life more than those who are hasty, those who have no patience, those who get quickly angry. Thus quickly get frustrated, because things will not be built overnight. It might take years from you to build this balance. It's not going to happen like this. I wish we have a button in our body, you push it and hey, I became an optimistic person. It takes a lot of training to be optimistic. There's nothing like in you push it, you touch it, and I became positive. I have a positive mental, attitude. It doesn't, no bills. You swallow it and you become, oh, I'm positive today. It doesn't work this way. Even if you drug yourself, when you wake up, you find that you are just deceiving yourself. Another point, it's so important as well, is to take good role models in your life. Look at people who were able to balance their lives and try to model them. Be around people who balance their life. And make sure that you also help your children, the people in your community, to balance their life as a community leaders. Also make sure that you plan well for your life. One of the most important, if you can memorize it, will be very nice. Remember this, move on. Move on. It's so important to learn how to move on in your life. Life is like riding a bicycle. The only way to keep balance is to keep moving. If you ride a bicycle and you stop, you will lose balance. So that's how life is. It's you have to learn how to move on. Don't be stuck over that guy who broke up with you, or this girl who dumped you, or sorry, or over this incident, or someone who got fired. Don't do that. I have a guy that day was telling me, I said, I see you here in Dhuhr and Asr all the time, mashallah. You like Imam in the masjid. And he said, Shaykh, I don't have a job. Pray for me. I said, I'll pray for you, but you have to look for a job. He said, I've been looking for a job. I said, why couldn't you have a job? I remember you have a college degree. He said, yeah. He's an older gentleman. He said, I'm a chemist actually. But for the last 20 years of my life, I've been doing the same formula for one company. The company don't need this formula, so they don't need me. I said, and he said, I'm looking for another company, want the same formula. So that's not how life works. In order for you to keep balance, you have to keep moving, learn something new, move on. There is people stuck with this. They don't know how to move on quickly in their life. The quicker you know how to move on in your life, the better you will balance your life. Sometimes somebody said something bad to you, and it's stuck, you're stuck there. Every time you think about this, basically tension happened between you. He said this to me, he said this to me. Khalas, move on in your life, habibi. Khalas, he said that, move on. Either leave that person and don't deal with them anymore. But you need to learn how to move on. There is a lot of people scared to move on. There is a lot of people scared, and here where optimism comes, here when positive attitude comes, that I'm expecting good. A lot of people are stuck in a very bad marriages. A lot of people in this problem, and they're not getting out of it because they don't know how to move on, how to start fresh. They don't have the courage to move on with their life. And I'm telling you, if you don't know how to do that, very hard for me to see you building balance in your life. Also, one of the things that help you a lot to build balance, hard work. Hard work pays. Anyone here heard of the mountain man? Have you ever heard of somebody called the mountain man? It's a story, and it also recently was produced as a movie called The Mountain Man. And the mountain man, okay, it's a true story of a person, an Indian person by the name of, I'm not good in pronouncing Indian names, but I think it's Deshra Munji. Okay? To make the story, it's a long story, it became a movie. It's a very interesting movie to see. It's, this man, his wife, she was very sick. Okay? She was very sick, and he called the ambulance. He lived in a village behind the mountain. So by the time the ambulance came, it has to take a very hard road, ups and downs around the mountain until it reached the village. So by the time they came and picked her up and they went to the hospital, she died in the way. She couldn't make it. So this man made a decision that he would not let anyone of his village ever have the same experience again. So next day after he buried his wife, he took an axe and he went to the mountain and he started digging. One, by himself. So the people in the village said, are you okay? He said, I'm going to make a tunnel to make a shortcut between our village and the city, which is the other side of the mountain. Sorry, crazy. He said, no, I'm not. I am determined. Guess what, guys? For the next 22 years of his life, 22 years, not a single day he was absent. Every single day he will go and he will start digging through the mountain until one day he saw the light from the other side of the mountain. And he made an actual tunnel that is about 70 kilometers through the tunnel. The 70 kilometers is the distance from the village to the city. But after the tunnel, it became only 10 kilometers. In a few minutes you can be. That led that the village were able to send their kids to school through buses, basically ambulance, and you can imagine how this changed the life of this village. And actually the government of India recognized this man after he died in the age of 80 as a national hero, and they have actually a special day for him to recognize him. His story is very interesting to read, the mountain man, known as the mountain man. Another point is so important also in building balance in your life is to learn how to compromise. If you don't know how to compromise, you cannot build balance in your life. You cannot make a balanced decisions, a balanced relationships. That's life. You need to learn how to compromise. You learn to learn what are the areas that I can compromise in and what are the areas that I cannot compromise. So what I said today is just a few points that I want to share with you, that, and based on these points, you can go back and look at your life. How can I build this balance in my life? How can I make sure that I look at every aspect of my life and I'm giving it its rights? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His names and attributes to help us to build balance in our life and to manage it very well. And it always will be a good idea, always be a good idea to seek help from people like life coaches, people who will help you to plan and help you to balance your life better, good friends, wise people, and that's part of modeling and having a good mentor or having a mentorship in your life. There is quickly I want to mention two quick announcements. That I got some requests for kind of questions and answer and meeting kind. There is the brothers and sisters in Al Maghrib Institute, which is I'm the vice president of. They have a booth outside. So at 4 o'clock, I will be having like a meet and greet kind of. I'll be there if anybody would like to come and get to know you guys a little bit more. I'll be happy to meet you guys at 4 p.m. at Al Maghrib booth, inshallah ta'ala. Also, they asked me to announce the next seminar on May 4th, and that will be called Trends by Shaykh Sa'ad Taslim, which is culture, identity, and fashion. It's a very interesting course. It's been a very successful course launched last year by Shaykh Sa'ad, so that's something also I will recommend you to consider. Again, this was my last talk in this conference, so I'm very thankful to Allah, thankful to the organizers of this beautiful gathering, and to your beautiful community. You guys are very blessed, have a good leadership, have a good country. Believe me, you know, and you should take full advantage of that, is to make sure that you give back, you contribute, be part of the society. Don't isolate yourself. Be part of this big, beautiful society. And together, inshallah ta'ala, you will have a very, very bright future ahead of you. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.